Home and Community-Based Waiver Rule. This training is for the HCBS guidance on the delivery of services in non-provider owned and controlled environments. Access to the community. All participants should know about their community and be supported in making decisions and choices related to accessing the community, including accessing services provided at local businesses, recreational opportunities, types of transportation services available, local events and activities such as churches or civic and service organizations. Participants should be supported in fully accessing and becoming a member of their community. For instance, if a participant wants to attend an event, staff will assist the participant in identifying what is needed for them to participate. This could be money, transportation, assistance of staff or natural supports, accessibility of the location, etc., and help the participant to plan and make decisions, including considering provider agency and natural support options, available funds, etc. Access to the community should take place through funded and natural supports. Funded supports, which lead to the building of social capital or natural relationships, are of utmost importance. Our role is to help individuals build relationships outside of paid supports. Having people in one's life who are not paid to be there and who genuinely care for the individual is part of having a meaningful life. WCHS will support participants in researching their community to identify how to find services, local events, groups, transportation routes, etc., and help identify options for participants to choose between. Participants will be encouraged and supported in becoming a contributing member of their community. Community-based activities along with day service activities should be discussed during calendar and newspaper discussions. An activity checklist will be sent out prior to the beginning of the next month. The setting should support individuals to receive services in the community to the same degree of access as persons not receiving Medicaid home and community-based services. Employment. WCHS will ensure that all participants who wish to work are supported in doing so. Participants who are interested in beginning the process should talk with a staff person, support coordinator, or request a planning team meeting to discuss employment options. WCHS will assist and/or engage in conversations with the planning team about employment service options. If participants obtain or have a job, we will support them as needed to accommodate their identified needs and help in their success. Even if a provider of waivered services does not offer employment supports through their service menu, HCBS regulation requires that the provider be a part of the discussion about employment. For example, a provider may not offer employment through their services, but an ISL staff person may still discuss the value of employment with someone they work with. In that discussion, the staff person may learn that the individual would like to work or would be interested in receiving supports to become more ready to work. The staff person is not charged with delivering that training or job linking. However, as part of daily documentation and planning team activity, the staff person should let it be known to the support coordinator and the planning team. Money management. WCHS will support individuals in managing their own money and personal resources, whether they have a payee or are managing their own money. Participants shall control their own access to their money, but may also request to have WCHS help manage funds. If requested, the provider will pay your bills, make deposits, budget for more expensive items, and help you to learn how to manage money. When assisting with management of funds, the provider will develop a system to account for and safeguard participant funds, including staff training. Participant funds will only be used for and by the participant. Many individuals receiving supports have had someone else manage their money most, if not all, of their lives. It certainly may be necessary for someone to assist the individual in doing so. A guardian may be the payee or may ask the agency to be the payee, especially for individuals living in a residential setting. However, this does not exempt the responsibility of helping people gain more independence in this area. The following should be considered with each person who has someone else managing their money. First and foremost, communication and training should be offered to individuals about their funds. Helping someone understand their rights and responsibilities by going over a budget together is a good place to start. For those with whom it's possible, some of the money they make could be set aside as money that they manage. This allows for growth in decision-making and learning responsibility. Outcomes and personal goals can be established in the ISP to track progress in this area. As progress occurs, more responsibility for funds could be transferred to the individual. Except in the rarest occasions, Total control of resources by a person other than the owner of the funds is a bad idea. People will not learn responsibility without an opportunity to exercise it. Sometimes this leads to a fear of what happens if the person makes a bad decision with his or her money. Safeguards can be put into place to minimize risk. A person who's never managed their own money shouldn't be given the whole checkbook on day one and told, "Good luck." It's a process, but unless the process begins, it cannot expand. Community resources. WCHS will help educate and engage participants to seek their input on choices regarding their needs being met and accessing services in their community, such as medical, behavioral, social, and recreational activities or other services that apply. The planning team will encourage participants to make informed choices about where they get their services. Helping people expand the horizon of available resources is a responsibility of everyone in the life of an individual. Informed choice is king. Helping people have all the information they need to make decisions in life is essential. An individual may not always make the choice others prefer. Outside of immediate health and safety issues, having the dignity of risk and the ability to fail is a right which should not be removed and should be respected. Supported decision making is a model used to help people express choice. Rather than a restrictive practice, supported decision making is based on an individual surrounding themselves with people, paid and unpaid, who assist them in life. These individuals come together as a team to assist the person in life decisions. The team provides pros and cons about upcoming decisions. The team helps the individuals see risk and opportunity. They provide advice but do not demand or insist on having things done their way. The individual takes this advice from the team and then makes decisions they feel would be in their own best interest. Choice of settings. WCHS will help educate and engage participants and seek their input and discuss their preferences in activities, living arrangements, and staff. If participants convey that they want services at other locations, staff will assist in discussion options with the individual and planning team. WCHS will promote integration by assisting individuals in living, learning, working, and enjoying life as others without a disability do in the community. Staff should offer participants opportunities to change their services and express their concerns or ask questions regarding the services they receive. The support plan will state preferences, and staff are required to read and sign the support plan within 30 days of receiving the plan and during the training period upon hire. HCBS guidelines teach a person-centered approach to funded and non-funded supports. The old model was agencies funded to provide a few cookie-cutter services. If a person received waivered services and supports, it had to fit within one of those pre-planned programs. That's not the case any longer. Funding and support has become much more flexible in finding ways for individuals to receive the support they need for life and to do it in an individualized way. If a person desires support which is not currently met, the planning team should meet with the individual to brainstorm possibilities of how to accomplish the goal of the individual. The language from HCBS is, they have the same access to the community as someone not receiving Medicaid. The old model, everyone in the group home or ISL goes to Walmart together on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. The new model, a person has access to whatever store he or she chooses to go to and has the ability to do so on their own or with others of his or her choice and at times of his or her choosing. HCBS settings also deals with where and with whom a person lives. Individuals in residential support have a choice about with whom, where, with how many he or she lives. This is to be accomplished within his or her budget, of course, but HCBS changed much of the preconceived idea of residential supports of the past. Let's look at restrictions and modifications. Participants shall be in full control of their daily lives. No participants will have their rights restricted except if detailed in their ISP or Behavior Support Plan (BSP) and approved by the planning team. Any modification or restriction of a right must meet the following requirements: be reviewed by the Due Process Committee and be documented in the ISP. It must list the specific assessed need and be justified. It must provide positive interventions and supports that were used prior to any modifications or restrictions. It must seek to see if less intrusive methods of addressing the risk have been tried but did not work. And it must have a clear description of the condition that is directly proportionate to the specific assessed need. Restrictions must also have a regular collection and review of data to measure the ongoing effectiveness. It must include informed consent of the participant. It must include assurances that interventions and supports will cause no harm to the participant. If a participant has a rights restriction indicated in his or her ISP, WCHS will collaborate with the support coordinator and other providers to collect data, attempt alternative strategies, and work towards reinstating the right over time. The plan must identify an external advocate and a right for the individual to participate in the due process meeting. Rights restrictions are a serious thing. DMH will not approve restrictions. They will approve a due process related to the restriction. A restriction always needs a due process. Even if the restriction is initiated by a court-appointed guardian, a due process is required. A due process will clearly identify what right has been restricted, will contain teaching components to assist the individual in regaining his or her right, and will outline the process of evaluation and review. Having privacy in life is important to all of us. It's no different for individuals receiving support through the Department of Mental Health, Division of DD, or through an agency provider like WCHS. Participants have a right to privacy. All participants will have the opportunity to assist in the selection of a roommate or housemate. Participants will have privacy in their bedrooms. If participants share a bedroom, participants can request private space to meet with a visitor during day services. Staff will always knock before entering a person's home, bedroom, or bathroom. Extra effort will be made to ensure privacy in bedrooms and bathrooms, except when assistance is needed and documented in the ISP. All participants will have input on the people with whom they live. If an issue arises between housemates, WCHS staff will meet with participants to try to develop solutions. If a participant expresses a desire to change housemates, the planning team will assist in making alternative arrangements. Housing opportunities. WCHS will work with participants who have the desire to live in the least restrictive environment and will receive information on affordable housing. WCHS will give choice of housing options and of living arrangements. Participants will decide where they want to live, who lives with them, and who they want to provide their supports. Participants will have the opportunity to discuss their waiver funding and resources that are available for housing with WCHS and with Washington County SB 40 TCM Support Coordinator. This will take place during the planning process and any other time by request during the year. Opportunities should be made available for the individuals to meet and view the home, along with their guardians if they have one. At this time, individuals will discuss the layout of the home and possible opportunities to spend a night or two to assess compatibility. During this meeting, all housing options should be discussed. Housing may include 24/7 supports in an ISL or group home setting. Housing may also include assisting the individual to find independent housing with minimal supports. The use of remote monitoring, alone time, staffing, individual apartments combined with PA services are all things which may decrease the need for wraparound residential services. Options should be explored which allow for the least restrictive environment in which the person's health and safety can be maintained. Dignity and respect. WCHS and all staff recognize the importance of treating participants with dignity and respect. The following code of conduct applies to anyone employed by WCHS. Protect health and safety. If a staff member suspects a participant has experienced any abuse, neglect, exploitation, or maltreatment, our first duty is to protect the participant's health and safety. Staff must follow agency policy and criteria for reporting events. Compliance with laws. All staff will conduct business activities in compliance with all applicable laws and WCHS's policies. All staff are expected to take appropriate action against coworkers who violate laws or policies. Grievance. Participants can talk to staff anytime they are unhappy with staff or the services provided, and WCHS will try to resolve the issue. WCHS staff will help the participant contact their guardian or their case manager if needed. If the issues have not been resolved, participants or guardians can file a verbal or written grievance, which is a formal way of telling the provider of service that you are unhappy about something and asking for someone to help you with it. The individual guardian will have the division's complaint process and anonymous complaint information available for all participants and guardians. This information is contained in the ISP. Freedom of choice. WCHS will support individuals, participants, in their independent choices made in their daily activities and how they spend their free time. This includes, but is not limited to, with whom they interact, what activities they choose, or where they are located. WCHS will offer different options to participants so they may make a decision independently or with a guardian without any undue influence, and that is based on sufficient experience and knowledge, including exposure, awareness, interactions, and/or instructional opportunities to ensure that the choice is made with adequate awareness of all the available alternatives to and consequences of options available. Coercive behavior from staff towards individuals supported will not be tolerated. Staff should avoid using coercion to convince an individual to make a certain choice. This is especially true in cases where the staff member wants the individual to make a choice which will be of greater benefit to the staff member than the individual. A good rule to follow is to ask this question: if as a staff member, if my motivation is convenience or control, I'm probably heading for trouble. My role is to always examine what is best for the individual I serve. Even then, he or she may make a choice which I do not prefer. Freedom of choice is a powerful right, one which none of us would like to have removed from our lives. So what about access to visitors? Participants are encouraged to invite family and friends to visit in the participant's home at any time. Visitors are allowed in common areas and the participant's bedroom, if the participant wishes to invite them. Part of independence and autonomy is for us to have the right to have visitors without having to seek permission to do so. At times, because a person may live with others, he or she may need to consider their preferences as well. For example, an agency should never have house rules. These are rules created by an authoritative figure within the agency and imposed on the people living there. However, if a person has two housemates, the three of them may need to set some expectations for sharing a home. If two of the three prefer to go to bed early and need a quiet home to rest, they may choose not to have visitors in the home after 10 p.m. In this situation, the third housemate would need to decide if that's acceptable. If not, he or she may choose to live with different people. And last of all, services and supports. WCHS will seek input on the participants' preferences in staff and supports, or the type of staff that are the best fit. If multiple participants and guardians request a small number of staff, WCHS ensures participants have fair access to their preferred staff as available or appropriate. WCHS will offer different options to participants so they can make a decision independently or with their guardian that is based on sufficient experience and knowledge, including exposure, awareness, interactions, and/or instructional opportunities to ensure that the choice is made with adequate awareness of all the available alternatives to and consequences of options available.